All your fault, Doug.
Just hide over here.
Welcome to meet my friend.
Yeah. How are you doing, Greg?
And I have my esteemed colleague here, Doug Ziegler. I sometimes get your name wrong. We're just going to jump into our guest because she's fabulous and I love her. Her name's Elle Rhodes. She is from the Minneapolis area, and we're just going to let Elle tell us what she does. You guys got a little teaser on the post there, but we're just going to jump right in here. Hi, Elle.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah.
We're doing great. At this point, today we're live streaming. A lot of people probably take this in recorded, but today it's a Saturday morning, and we're in the middle of a global pandemic, so we'll get to that. But I always like to start to who are you, where are you at, and first of all, where did your craft beer love come from? Where'd you find it?
Well, I'm Elle Rhodes. I am presently sitting in my dining room in St. Paul, Minnesota, for all those not from around here. My craft beer life started, I would say, very slim start back when Newcastle was craft and those kind of things. My next door neighbor in my first uptown apartment was from Bozeman, is from Bozeman. Shout out to Phoebe.
Bozeman, Montana?
Bozeman, Montana. Yeah. So she exposed me to Moose Drool pretty early. And I was like, oh, that's malty. Malty is good. And before that, it had been, nothing but light Miller High Lives and premiums and things like that, Minnesota, all that sort of stuff. So I would say that was probably my first exposure. Then okay, I can handle Moose Drools. I can handle dark malty things. And then after that, had started kind of on this weird little beer tour, commercial restaurant beer tour life of old Chicago's and things like that. Realizing that I really love Belgians. And after that, my best friend and I were kind of just belly up bar people. We like to know our bartenders. So it was always sit at the bar, know who your bartender is, become friends, all that sort of stuff. And at that point, you get to see the scene change kind of in front of your face because you see the tap handles and you see this isn't something I've ever seen before. You haven't seen this, stone or this, I don't know, anything. Bell's Too Hearted or things like that start to show up on your tap handles as opposed to just Coors Light and Mick Golden. And he would always try something that was super hoppy. He would always get it, no matter what it was. And I was like, am I going to like that? He said, no, for sure not. I was like, well, let me try it anyway. And he was right every single time. I hated it. And I would pick something else that had strong malty character or was Belgian. And it really got me interested in why is this so different? It's beer is beer. It's brewed essentially the same way. Why is there something that I vehemently hate called beer? And so I started taking some classes and some certification courses and just kind of researching it because that's the type of person I am. And realizing oh, there's a difference here. And it's something that interested me. So from there, I got involved in the tap room kind of scene. I worked for a tap room for a while. Then it was brought to my attention that I have a sales background and I had a passion for beer at the time, and maybe I'd be able to translate those things. So kind of hopped a little bit in the beginning, but landed myself as the Metro on-premise sales rep for Fulton Brewery. And it'll be 2 years this fall that I've been there.
Excellent. Doug?
So Fulton, that's in Minneapolis proper, or?
It is. The tap room is right by the Twin Stadium.
Okay.
Last stop of the light rail. And then, which is going under some renovations right now. And I'm so excited for when everything can open again because it's going to be so beautiful. And then the brewery itself, we maxed out that tap room space long ago. So they bought a brewery in Northeast Minneapolis. So the brewing facility is separate and it's enormous. And it's always funny when people walk in there oh, I don't know why I thought you were brewing at the tap room because there's no way you can do this in there. Not a possibility. Yeah. Fulton is the 4th largest brewery in the state. So we put out massive amounts of beer, which is great.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Doug's not familiar with that area there, but I am very familiar with that area. And you guys have Modus Spy. You have what's the other one? You got a distillery down there.
Its own little neighborhood. We're like Inbound, Modest.
Yeah, Inbound
is around the corner. One Fermentary and Tap Room, which is co-owned by one of the directors of BCC. They're next door to number 12 Cidery. Modest is over there. First Draft is over there. Gray's is over there. I'm trying to think what distillery it would be. I don't know.
Or was it a cidery? I'm sorry.
Yeah, number 12 Cidery is there.
Right. I just know that there's a really nice concentration of craft breweries, craft people. That whole area there is amazing. And I think it's just fantastic about, because people talk about, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit, but people talk about like, how can two breweries be so close to each other and still, thrive? And I'm like, how can they not?
Right.
Driving traffic between each other is like really good.
I mean, the competition is there, obviously, but the craft beer community nationwide, as far as I've seen overall, for the most part, is a family, and it's really community driven. So, like, people help each other out if they're low on malt or need product or need, kegs or any sort of thing. Nobody has any problem reaching out and getting what they need from another brewery. And it's a really great community that way. It's not a lot of industries that thrive when they help each other. So I'm happy that, craft beer is one of those. It's for the most part, a friendly, familial industry.
Doug, I'm going to go to Brewing Change. So if you have any more questions about Fulton, now is the time.
So generally speaking, how sometimes you have different breweries, like they're kind of, what's the flagship beer or beer style of Fulton?
When anybody thinks of Fulton, they think of Fulton Lonely Blonde, which is our best seller. We sell enough Lonely Blonde for it to be the 5th or 6th largest brewery in the state on its own. That's our baby. We sell an enormous amount of Fulton Lonely Blonde. There it is. We also launched seltzer this last May, which, is a controversial topic, but our seltzer is absolutely phenomenal. And I wouldn't say I'm one of those people that has to actually believe in a thing in order to sell it. And I was concerned, like anybody else would be, when we said that we were doing that, and it launched, and it's amazing. We don't use any fake sugars or extracts or anything artificial. So it's all real fruit. It tastes amazing and fresh and clean. And now we've got 6 flavors of that, which is doing crazy. Chill City Chugger just came out, which is a beer that we say tastes like beer, which I went and got some this week from the brewery, and it's perfect. It's perfect for this season. I had one. I was like, this is exactly what I've been doing yard work all week to earn right now.
Well, I was going to jump on Brewing Collab, but I'm going to wait actually, because you brought up a couple of things here. So would you consider yourself, first of all, a seltzer person?
I wouldn't say I'm a seltzer person. I would say I wouldn't say I'm a seltzer person, because I'm very, very picky about seltzers that I'll drink. I don't like the weird fake sugary tastes of a lot of them. I am very particular about flavor in general. Like, even on beer, I'm not one of those people who's like, ooh, give me a milkshake IPA. It's just there's something that needs to be a part of something and needs not to be a part of something for me to enjoy it. But I would say there are a couple companies, breweries, that are doing seltzer right, and Fulton is definitely one of them. There are definitely seltzers that I will take a sip of and not even continue with. And I'm not a by and large seltzer person. There are people that will definitely drink seltzer more frequently than I will.
Yeah. Doug?
So the other thing that has been new that Greg and I have discussed on the Friday show is people doing more like the super low alcohol versions, like almost like hopped water kind of deal.
Yeah.
Does Fulton do something of that in that realm yet, or no?
We do have our hop water, which we don't actually sell yet. And then we do have our hopped seltzer, which is actually amazing. It's back on that page, but it's a seltzer, it's alcoholic and has Simcoe and some other hop extract in it. It's on the bottom left there, but it's that one's the hopped, and it's supposed to appeal to the people who are like, oh, I don't like fruity things, or I don't want to drink seltzer because it doesn't taste like beer. This one it appeals to those people for sure. It's got a little grapefruit background, citrus back, so that it's not just like hops and water, but it's really good. It's really good. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's been like kind of with the seltzers and the hot water has been kind of what I've seen as more like a trend this year. So
yeah, I mean, here we're distributed with our distributor also carries Lagunitas, so they have their hoppy refresher and it's non-alcoholic, and that's delicious as well, and I love that. But this one I feel like it's more carbonated, and so the hop comes through a little bit more. Also, 5% alcohol as opposed to not. And personally, I'm one that if there is alcohol available, I'm going to take that one.
As you do.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily a fan of the seltzers, but what I'm a fan of is breweries staying in business. And if that's what you have to do, I explained to Doug one time where if you have to take off your quote 3 worst beer sellers and you have to put seltzers on there, and that's keeping people in, and that's keeping people in your tap room, then I'm all for it. And we're brewing here too, and this is just another, in my opinion, this is just another way that craft beer is just building out and trying to be broader and bigger and more approachable to more people. So I'm for it, even though it's necessarily not my thing.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, that's true about anything. I mean, I'm not a huge, way on the bitter side IPA person. Definitely my palate has changed since being in the industry. So I'm like, I enjoy a number of IPAs now, but not everything is made for everybody. Things are made so that everybody can join in. I think that the industry kind of shot ourselves in the foot on this seltzer thing because we're the reason that it exists as a large market share anyway. But anybody that jumped in realized this is a huge part of the drinking population that is now going after these big brand seltzers. And if we want a part of that profit, then we have to get in on it. And that's why a lot of people have done it. A lot of people aren't going to, because also the production on that and steering away from doing, producing and production the beer that you're already making is a large time investment as well. So it has to be the right fit for everybody and the right company move for everyone. I definitely know that the industry of seltzer was led by probably mostly beer salespeople, because we're out in the accounts all the time and can't be drinking our 9% whatevers or 7% whatevers, and just have to be having during an event or during a promotion where we can get in and out and still drive home, as opposed to Ubering or using up money like that. So I think that the industry built the seltzer industry, frankly, and now here we are with it, and we have to deal with it.
Doug, anything?
I think to the point of Greg and I talk about this all the time. You like what you like, and that's totally cool. You do. If you can get your way into and use seltzers as a way to bring more people to your brewery, awesome. I think that's an opportunity you can take advantage of, and it's good to see Fulton's doing that. So
definitely.
So you were working at Fulton when you came up with the idea, or you and your friend? Where did Brewing Collaborative come out of? What you were, where you're at and what you're doing?
Brewing Change Collaborative, BCC, started March of last year. So we just celebrated our 1-year anniversary, which is very exciting. It kind of came to the fruition. Thank you. Fruition of, different people's reality and realization that they were the onlys. I had done an article for the Growler magazine, I don't know, a couple years ago, and Mecca, whom I love and adore, gave me the coined the phrase that I have not been able to ever let go since. She said, "I'm a unicorn," because I was the only, not even just female, but like the only Black person she could find in the brewing industry at the time. And Ramsey had already left. Ramsey is the gentleman there. He had already left for Michigan at the time. So it hadn't been a thought that really occurred to me. Like I grew up in Philly and then Minnesota. So I'm used to being surrounded by, a very vanilla landscape. So
Hi.
yeah. So it hadn't been something that really occurred to me, and it bothered me. She's like, "You're a unicorn," and I was like, "What? That's terrible." And I lived with that for a little bit, and started to realize, like, why am I the only one? Hey, War Cloud, the only one who cared about the industry. Why was I the only one who was interested in this? What did that say about me? What did that say about the industry? What does that say about my life, my career choice? What does that say about so many things? And thankfully at that time I had started to follow Fresh Fest, which is where you and I met, Craig. And from there found Dr. J and found Shalonda, who's Afro Beer Chick, and realized, okay, I'm not the only one anywhere. I'm just the only one here. And that's still not great, but it's something. And so I started to reach out that way. In the meantime, Ramsey came back from Michigan with the intent to open one fermentory and tap room in downtown, sorry. And he reached out and was like, I want to open this space, but I want it to reflect more than what normal, breweries reflect. I want it to be more than the bearded white guy. I want it to, like, where are my people? And I want them to come in. And I was like, okay, let's talk. And I wasn't, looking to leave Fulton by any means, but I wanted to help. And I also was like, what can we just do about the fact that we are the only two people that we know right now sitting here? And I had a conversation with Nasreen, who also at the time worked for Fulton. And we kind of just decided we're going to do something about this. We're actually going to put action to this, as opposed to just talking about it. We're going to do something. So we met opening the Twins opener of last year, and we had about 10 people meet up that day, and we kind of sat and talked about, like, what is it that we want to do here? We have 10 people that frankly none of us really knew the other existed, or if we did, we never really collaborated on it. And they're like, I just want to walk into a place and have it feel more like home. I want to, like, where I feel welcome. I want to see more of my faces. I want to have people that I can have conversations with about, the industry or our struggles in the industry. I also want to, like, allow opportunities for people who haven't just found their way here, because all of us found our way in, as opposed to, like, numerous people have said, like, how did you get in here? And I'm like, I wasn't led here by somebody else's hand. I had interest, I followed that up, but I also had access, and a lot of people don't have access. So let's do something to change that. So we started up, became an official Minnesota nonprofit. Shortly after, became a 501c3, and have been, featured on chats like this, or written up in articles. And we got asked to do a panel at Fresh Fest last year.
Yes.
And that was huge. We were barely, I think, 3 months old.
I was gonna say, and you guys, and Doug, you weren't there, but and that's why I'm over here, like, rolling my eyes, like, what? Like, you're only a year old? I mean, I knew you guys were young, but, like, you guys were so professional, and you delivered it like you've been doing it your whole life, and that was, like, impressive. So now you're telling me that you guys were like babies running out here, and
barely. We barely started. We didn't even have our 501c3 at that point, I don't think. So we were just fresh out of the gate. Like, when Day and Mike asked me about it, to be involved. I was like, excuse me. I had just reached out at like a question of like, could you tell us the dates of the festival so we can buy our plane ticket, because we're coming from Minnesota, we're not super local. And that was still at the point I think they were thinking like we're attracting a very local audience. I'm like, no, I need a plane ticket, so you gotta tell me what time it's happening. And that's all I reached out for. And they're like, wait, you're coming from Minnesota doing what? And they looked us up and were like, can you be on this panel? And I was like, well, obviously, yes, but what? And we were on that panel with like giants. We were on there with Benny and Tio and Ashton Berry, whom I love and adore. They just all at Fresh Fest. Like, I'm sure everybody comes on here and talks about like how amazing Fresh Fest was, but essentially like family that I would never be able to get rid of at this point.
Right.
You know, serious connection. And it was just like mind blowing. They asked us to be on that panel. I was like, what? And it went really well as far as I know. And we've hung out and stayed connected, and it's just been pivotal. And from there, you know, have done all sorts of events. Ramsey opened one fermentory. We had a giant event for that, and it's just been rolling. And I'm the one who handles most of like anything outwardly focused, so like social or events, things like that. And I had obviously my whole year planned for this year. With it, stay at home, so it's all right. We're still around. We're still doing our monthly meetings, and we meet the fourth Thursday of every month. We're still doing those virtually. And
can I join?
Of course you can. Of course you can.
Okay, I'm on it. Cool.
Yeah.
I'll be at the next one.
Yeah. So BCC, to explain this, BCC is an organization made for people of color, to foster diversity, to open up opportunities, to educate, to advocate, all of those things. So we have members, which are the people of color in the industry. You don't have to be in the industry. You can just be somebody who's like cursory on this outside, likes beer, likes to talk about liquor or spirits, or doesn't drink at all and just wants community. It's an open group like that. We have supporters and supporter organizations who, you know, have allowed us to use their spaces, and friends who like donate to the organization, or companies who donate to the organization. Member events are reserved for our members, which is anyone who considers himself a person of color. And then any supporter event is opened up to anybody else. So you don't have to be in the industry to be a BCC member. You don't have to be doing anything related. You can be in, we have people that are in spirits. We have people that are in wine. We have people that don't drink at all. And so that's essentially like reach out on social, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, any of those things, and we'll get you linked up. But we are still doing our virtual meetings on the fourth Thursday. So we just had one this last Thursday.
And truth be told, Elle's been trying to get me to come to a meeting since we met.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, 4 hours away. So when planning my trip, when planning a trip up to Minneapolis, I did tell you that I was going to make sure that I planned it on a week that I can make one of your meetings. But now that they're virtual, I'm totally in. Doug, you got a question, brother?
No, I was just curious because, like, I don't know if something I stumbled across and I haven't had a chance to watch yet, but there's a show on Netflix called Uncorked, which focuses on people of color in the wine industry. Is it wine industry, or people just enjoy wine?
It's wine. The character is trying to become a sommelier. We did a virtual watch party for that a couple weeks ago. It was great. I loved that movie. It ended in a way that I wasn't satisfied, but it was a good movie. I liked it. I also liked that the focus was based on a Black man or a person of color getting into an industry that he, like, very vocally, the movie centers on the fact that he is an only in the industry. So something most of us can relate to. So.
Yeah.
My friend Tony says, good afternoon.
Hi. Is it? Hi. Like, stop.
Afternoon here.
Yeah, East Coast. He's East Coast. Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
You are you having? I don't want to. Are you having a beer? Oh no.
I was going to, and then I didn't know if you guys were. Oh, you have
I
beer. All right.
I am not having beer. I'm having a gin and tonic
Oh, very.
because I had so much beer last night. I just was like, ugh.
So
We had a crazy night.
Yeah, it was a long night.
Rummy, actually. There's like my dad creates this locked like table for us to all play rummy together, and we start at about 9, and we're still playing at 12:30, and still not at 500. So it was night.
Oh, how we pass the time now, isn't it interesting?
I'm breaking out a Fulton Porter, which definitely is not a current offering. It's still in my fridge.
Proper porter.
Proper porter, it's a good one.
Porter, it's still drinking really well. Like this is my second or third one of these. That not today, but
we wouldn't judge if it was today. That would be fine.
Right.
It's in a couple hours. I literally woke up right before I had to get onto this. So,
it kind of felt that way, right? Wow. So wow, that's really the whole Fresh Fest. You're sharing about Fresh Fest really puts a different spin on it for me, because again, you guys were very polished. You guys didn't seem nervous. You guys seemed very natural, and I was just blown away by that whole panel. It was a great kickoff to that whole event. And it really just started the whole we're all in this together thing. And someone was running around with a Black People Love Craft Beer shirt. I was like, yeah, look, there we go. yes. I need one of those.
Shirt.
Who's no, I need man, I'm sorry, what's that?
BPLB. They just launched the beer named after that, actually. This couple months ago now, I want to say.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a Crowns and Hops hookup.
So, or Doug, you got one?
I have a question regarding your beer, because our friend Shalonda is not a big fan of those, apparently.
I love Shalonda. Shalonda's in the syndicate. Has she talked to you about the syndicate?
Not me, but
No, syndicate.
Syndicate is a group of people. So when we were preparing for Fresh Fest last year, I sent out a message to a bunch of people who essentially are people of color in the brewing industry, who either were influencers or people doing Crowns and Hops kind of thing, or just out there in the world. And we were kind of all doing the same thing to gather exposure and knowledge and all that sort of thing. And one person, Uncap Everything, Eric Jackson, sent a note of, hey, has anybody thought of sharing a house? And I was literally about to push the accept or whatever button for my private Airbnb. So I literally took pause and was like, do I want to share a house with a bunch of strangers? And I was like, fine, I'll do it. So I said yes. A bunch of other people said yes. And it wound up being myself, Eric Jackson, who is Uncap Everything, Phil, who is a BCC member, who's Philonometry on Instagram, James Higgs, who is BCC, but also works for Forager in Rochester. He's Past the Hops. Nasreen. And it was Black and Brew Chicago, Mickey.
Yes.
Shalonda. And then Black Beer Travelers, Brandon Montgomery, was going to be in the house, but then had some other things. But anyway, still connected. And now it became a group of 12 of us. So that was some. So then there's Ralph, who is Beard Black Man.
Yes.
Eugenia, who is Black Beer Chick, who just had her 1-year anniversary of her LLC.
I want to get her on the show.
Oh, she's fantastic.
I'm trying for Black Beer Guy too. I'm trying for all these guys.
Yeah. So there's Phil and Eric and who else? Okay, so there's Ashley, and then there's
Ashley Moore.
No, Ashley is Eugenia's sister.
Okay.
And so essentially we called ourselves the Syndicate because the house we stayed in was on Jacksonia Street, and so it's the Jacksonia Street Syndicate. Now it's just the Syndicate, and it's just a bunch of people that just happenstance. And I was thinking about this morning. I'm like, it's just essentially like God that we hooked up, because we are now this like family. We constantly talk. We have this Instagram thread that goes back over a year, and we just, support each other. Like today is Beer Clean Glass Day. Brandon is making sure that we're all being involved in our Beer Clean Glass promotions. Yes, make sure you clean your glassware.
We're very bad about that. We're always like, dirty glass. Hey,
like it's a glass, but he made a post that we're all going to participate today. So we got that to do. But it's this really tight little family. So Shalonda, does not love dark beers. And I don't know.
No,
we haven't
porters.
got it yet.
It's just porters.
Just porters?
Yeah.
I thought it was also.
Yeah, she called it brown water. So
she doesn't like stouts either, I was pretty sure.
Oh, she likes the big stouts, I thought.
Yeah, we've seen her do.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay.
Maybe we're wrong. That's
maybe.
Right,
I don't know.
right.
But I feel like we could turn her. I feel like there's so many accessible porters, and unless it's like a roasted coffee kind of thing that she's got against it, which I think she would get over.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think we can turn her for sure. I just haven't been. We have planned. We already have our Fresh Fest house booked. So, although I don't think she can go this year, but if that still happens, we're all gonna get together, and then I can introduce her to some balanced porters and see if I can turn her over.
Yes.
I'm also gonna seltzer and see who I can convince on that one.
I want to taste some good seltzers for sure. But so that led to was there a bottle share at the Syndicate House?
There was. That was ours.
Okay. And I was there.
Yeah.
And that was the second one. And that was just, I don't really have words for it actually.
Everybody says that.
It was an event I've never ever experienced in my life. The camaraderie and the openness and the people and the love and the just, I don't know how to explain how, like, again, it was just no pretentiousness, nothing. Like you could just literally walk up to anybody. Who are you? What's going on? It was just,
yeah. I mean,
you go.
Every time anybody brings up the Syndicate bottle share at Fresh Fest, it's always like we chuckle about it because it wound up being so much more live and so much more lit than I think any of us had necessarily intended. I was at the Fresh Fest bottle share when I got the text from everybody else, like, we're having a bottle share tonight, invite who you want. And I'm like, okay. And then we all like prepped and whatever, and it was crazy. The pictures, the bottles, the
videos.
Yeah, the videos. Yeah, it was just, and the speeches and everything else. It was just kind of this giant family being able to come together and hang out, and all of Fresh Fest, I feel like, had that vibe of family and walking up to anybody and just having conversation. Like you would be standing at some tent waiting for beer here and talk to these people over here and these people over here, and it was just like that the entire time. And I've never had such a great time at a beer festival ever. So, and frankly, probably almost any social gathering, like any large social gathering, will have to measure up to Fresh Fest. So, the whole atmosphere and the fact that like we walked away with family, like people that I would still feel that I can walk up to and have any sort of conversation with at this point, without feeling a pretense of, oh, hey, do you remember me? And like, oh, we had this conversation, or blah, 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 or you want to talk, or maybe I should reach out. There's none of that. Like, I can reach out to Crowns and Hops. I can reach out to War Cloud. I could reach out to any number of people all over the country and feel like it's been a day.
And Jug, I'll let you get in here, but real quick though, and we hold each other accountable because Elle sent me a message a couple months ago, and I'm just not that engaged on IG. I see the messages, I get the notifications, but I'm never there. And I continue to try to force myself to be there because a lot of people are there. So short story, Elle sent me a message and I never responded. So then, yeah. So then it was 2 weeks later, and I'm pretty sure I shouted out to Elle like, hey, I love the feature on my show, blah, blah. She's like, but you didn't call me back, man, or you didn't get back to me. What's going on? Like, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't mean to. So like, that connection is made so much that like, you know what I mean? There's like a connection, like we're brothers and sisters. You need to respond to me. Like, and it's like, no, I got you. I feel you. But like, that's a sense of like, even just a little time that we spent together, that was a sense of family that we all got, is my point.
Yeah, definitely. I haven't seen you since then, but I feel like
Right.
we're still here.
Right. And I didn't take it offense. I was like, no, she's right. I didn't respond, you moron. Let's go. What's going on? Because right. I was like, look, I'll come on your show, but you gotta at least respond to me. Come on, dude. Like so what's up, Doug?
Out to you because somebody, and this is also, I feel like, a benefit and something that's really awesome about the connections that we made. I had somebody reach out to me saying like, do you know anybody in beer or anything in Wisconsin? I was like, I don't know the layout of Wisconsin to know if they're close to you or not, but I know these people in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. And you were one of them, and that's why I was reaching out to you. They're looking for people in Wisconsin. And that was why I was like, I only know 3. So
right. And he don't respond. He's an asshole, so it's fine though. Anyway, going back.
Yeah, with the Fresh Fest stuff, I was really looking forward to that, and I don't know if it's going to happen. I certainly hope so.
I'm hoping. Actually, right now at this very minute, there is a conversation happening on some other Zoom channel with Fresh Fest.
Okay.
So,
okay, let's talk.
I just so know, I chose you. We already had an appointment, so I'm here.
Hey, we'll get you off and you go jump on that, and then we can find out the info because Doug and I are very Doug and I.
I'm nervous, but I'm hoping it happens. I'm also like, is it a good thing? I don't know.
We're
right now.
You want to happen, and yet at the same time, you want to make sure everybody's safe. So it's like
right. And this was the year, like they had changed the format. It was going to be in a neighborhood in Pittsburgh that is predominantly Black, and trying to like focus on supporting businesses and encouraging new growth that isn't gentrifying a neighborhood. And so I'm like, I really want this to happen because that's a great impetus. That's a great connection. That's a great focus for the festival. And it was going to be probably the biggest one so far, and then cap it at this number, which I think they were going for 5,000 this year. So I don't know. I want to go. The syndicate still wants to go. Everybody still wants to go. BCC obviously was invited again. So we were going to collab with one and make a really awesome situation, get out there. So I'm hoping. I hope so.
We had our Airbnb and we canceled. But we still
have so long to cancel though.
Right. And then also, we can rebook too, so it's not really a, you know what I mean? Because I don't think there's going to be, I don't think there's going to be like this big, I think there's going to be a glut. How about that? So like, when it's time to jump on, we can maybe even get a better spot if that's what happens. But yeah, we were feeling it because I told Doug last year after you guys set the standard about the Airbnb, because I wasn't involved in any of that. And again, it came together so organically, as you said, and I heard it too. So it wasn't like I felt like left out. It was more like, oh, I need to do this next year myself because this is dope.
Yeah. We booked literally the day they announced the Fresh Fest date, we booked our place. Like I'd already been looking, and we're like, okay. Plus, we needed a house that would fit at least 10 people. So there's not a lot of that. Yeah.
Are there plans for another bottle share?
If it happens, and if the syndicate is there, obviously, yes, there would be another bottle share. 100%. Yeah, we've been talking about all this stuff.
I will unfriend you all if I don't get an invite.
Wow.
That day.
Yeah. Make sure to send out invites.
Yeah, no, but that was
The
better.
people that come up to me like, why did I hear about it after? I'm like, it was so spur of the moment. I didn't know. I didn't know it was gonna be something that people are still talking about a year later.
Right.
But probably because it was so spur of the moment and it was so great in the moment. That's probably why it sticks out so much, you know?
Right. And I don't know, Doug, it was someone I had on recently, like on a live stream. I don't know if you were involved or not. And I was like, oh, you were at the bottle share. And they're like, no. And I was like, kind of awkward. Right? And I was just like, I didn't know. Someone said there's another bottle share. And I was like, oh, this sounds great. Where is it? We just took the Uber there, and we were there. And then again, it was just, my thing is still like, we had big industry people there too. We had Dr. J there, and we were just sitting out back. I was just sitting out back talking to Dr. J like she was like a long friend that I had. You know what I mean? Like we were getting like we talked like we were friends for like ever, and we just seen each other, and it was just like, man, I left out like I talked to Dr. J like, and if anybody doesn't know Dr. J, get on Twitter, look for her. She's one of the main forces of she's the diversity director for craft beer for the brewing industry, right? Is that
for the Brewers Association?
Right. So she's one of the, if not the, main diversity person in beer. So if the fact that we were able to just to sit down with her, share pizza with her, share beers with her, going back and forth on what this beer was like, what her favorite was. Again, it just blew my mind how amazing it was.
All those pizzas, because that was not a part of the bottle share, but obviously necessary.
Right. Who bought those pizzas? Somebody was
from Odell. I love him. I mean, I love honestly everybody who was there. I can't even think of anybody that walked through that door though. I did not.
We might have to charge admission now because it's out.
Special invite. Got a bracelet on the sly, and that's how we get in. It's probably true, but yeah, and people like we already had 8 people in this house, and we already all brought bottles to share. So the fridge was already insanely full, and then everybody comes through with their bottles to share. Like somebody, I think it was Hannah Ferguson, rolled in a whole cooler. We're like, what is happening?
Here I come.
We're like, right. Oh, this went so much bigger than we were expecting, and people just kept rolling through. It was a lot of fun, and it was just like one of those moments where we all felt it. We were all like, this is the first time that we've looked in a room and done anything like this. This is the first time that we've been surrounded by our own culture. And I was just having a conversation with somebody else the other day. I think it was Melanie, who is a BCC member. We were talking about some hopeful plans that we can have this year. And we're like, the great part of Brewing Change Collaborative and the great part of anything like this is that you don't have to walk in and feel like you have to put on airs, or you have to be something else, or you have to fit somebody else's mold or mentality of what you have to be in that moment. You can walk in and be you and not even have to talk about it, because a lot of being a minority in America is educating people on what it is to be a minority in America. And it gets exhausting and tiring and super frustrating to have to constantly explain or educate people when they have the ability to research it and figure it out on their own. And so not having to carry that when you walk into a space and be able to just like, no, this is it. We all get it. We're here to have fun. We're here to like be together. We're here to support each other, love on each other, listen to each other, and feedback like on our experiences and everything else. That's huge. And that's why BCC feels like so much of a family, and that's why Fresh Fest feels like so much of a family, because it's literally like people just without even having to have a conversation, understanding each other and just love, and it's fantastic. Doug, you missed out.
Hey, you know what? The thing is as a white guy where I have just basically everything open to me, it's something where like I have to take a step back and realize that, and Greg knows me, I'm pretty open about things, but even so, I'm white. I have a pretty big blinder thing in front of me most of the time without even realizing it.
Yeah.
And just hearing about this kind of stuff and realizing, oh yeah, when I go into a bar and let's say Greg and I go to a bar, his experience at that bar is way different than mine is, even though we're sitting next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I don't ever have to actively think about,
Right.
you know, and being able to have space for people who don't look like me and being like, yeah, that's really important. It's really important for you to be able to go into a place and not have to make yourself fit to a mold, feel like you have to explain yourself or anything like that. It's not an experience I ever really have.
Right.
So this is super important, and I'm really glad to have you on the show, just for nothing else for that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to just get to talk to you guys. This is fun.
I like to explain it as this way too. Okay, so to my white friends, I like to say this. Is there ever a time where you are in a city or you're somewhere where you walk past a place and you look in and you can see through and it's just all Black people? Now, is that something that you would just run into and be fine and comfortable with? Or is that something that you would double take when you look in there and then maybe you would just go to the next one because you would feel that you would be more welcome, or you would feel awkward being the only white person in a Black space? Please flip that, and then you can understand why there's sometimes where, again, if I'm just by myself and I am everybody knows, Al, I don't know if you know, but Doug knows, I go on these beer trips by myself. I went to Fresh Fest by myself.
Yeah.
I do things by myself. And I'm just there for the beer, so I don't really look at it that way. But a lot of people look at it that way, and that is a legitimate way to feel. And I'm not saying, you know what I mean, it's just more about your environment. Is that an environment that you feel comfortable in? And you know, we're all just, Black people just having fun, dancing and all that. But at the same time, we're not realizing that we're just in a real, quote, Black space. There are a few of those, but when there is, I'm sure it's very awkward and sometimes off-putting for white people to try to just walk in and just, try to, mesh in and, you know what I mean? So it's the same thing. That's how I like to describe it. And more words than you can do.
I've had lots of conversations with people who have had an experience like that, who went to Fresh Fest or who, moved to a different area and felt for the first time the only feeling like, oh, I'm the only one that looks like me in this space. And I've had them talk to me about, like, that was a very awkward realization and one that I'm thankful that I had, but it definitely made me think about it. Like, this is not a common situation for me. It's common for so many people, but this, and they never actually say, like, this is what it feels to be a minority. Like, that don't ever, but don't ever say that. But to have a glimpse or a slight feeling of understanding is something that they're thankful for. And I can be thankful for the friends and people in my life who can at least understand and be open to that. And people who say, like, how is your reception on BCC? How is it in, you're surrounded by a market that is largely white owned. I mean, the entire industry is represented by all of 3% total minority and 1% Black. So, being in a brewing industry, how do you feel about that? And how does BCC get responded to? And most people understand that it's an issue. Most people can see that it's an issue. Our first festival that BCC was at was the moment that I was like, oh my gosh, we really do have work to do, because somebody walked up to us at our first tabling. We were literally 3 weeks old and had nothing. We had to borrow everything. But we were there. We're like, we're not turning this down. And somebody walked up and was like, what do you do? And what are you here for? And we explained what the mission of the organization was. And he was an older white gentleman and said, do you feel like that's really an issue? And I looked at him, all of us stopped. And we were trying to, some of us were trying to figure out joking. Some of us were just shocked. And we were all just like, what? And I don't remember who finally spoke up, but I think it was probably all of us at the same time of Yes, definitely. Like, look around you. You're at a brewery festival right now, and we're at a table, like, for an organization. Like, we're tabling. We're at this event to create exposure, but we are the only minorities here. Like, we're not even participating in the festival, but we are the only ones here.
Literally, right.
Huh? I never thought about it like that. Okay, thanks, and just walked away. And that was the moment I was like, oh my God, we have a very serious purpose, a very serious purpose.
Per purpose, so we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
But at least you put the seed in his head. He may never get it, but it's there.
Yeah, exactly. And like, most of the industry understands, and you don't have to put the seed in there. They already kind of see the seed. They already have the seed. But for the people who are like totally dawning on them fresh information, it's like, wow, you live in a completely different world than you or most people do. Hopefully, at least they can like look around them and understand their privilege or their perspective. I don't know.
I got one more thing about Fresh Fest, and then I'll let you jump off of that. One thing since we're talking about Fresh Fest, and one thing I absolutely want to accent and make sure people know about Fresh Fest, in my opinion, and again, we can maybe maybe you can correct me or not. I felt it was 60-40, 60 black, 40% white. Maybe I'm wrong, but there were a lot of white people there. They were open, engaged. They were absolutely the same. They absolutely held the same vibe as the black people there. Like, I don't know how, again, Fresh Fest did this, but they set it up where, again, it's just everybody had the same family, community. We're all in it together, love, thread. And again, I went to Fresh Fest alone, like by myself. I knew I was going to see a couple people. I was really, really excited to meet her for Beer Check, because I had hooked up. I had hooked up on her social media stuff, and I had started following her, and then I realized that she was going to be there, and I was like, yes, this is going to be great. But like, I didn't go with anybody and I knew I was going to see people, but the whole time I wandered by myself, and I just talked to everyone, and everybody was open. I mean, I probably met as many new quote white friends as I did black friends there. It was just, I just want people to know that like it was just it's a big open party for anybody who wants to, again, be open-minded, love, and just enjoy the beer and the community that these guys set up. Like, it's really, really, Fresh Fest is really important because, we have to set up places for us that are comfortable for us, and then we'll invite everybody in. And that's exactly what they did. And it was just, again, I felt safe. I felt loved. I felt people gave a shit about when I talked about, who are you? And I'm like, oh, I'm Daddy Porter. And I did blah, 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 blah. But I'm just trying to learn beer. And, people were just fascinated by that, wanted to talk about it. I met so many friends. This whole blog series that I'm doing, a lot of people, half the people from Fresh Fest at this point. So I'm just making sure that everybody knows this isn't just like a black space where like only black people come. In fact, it was really, really diverse.
Yeah. It's really just, and I mean, they got a lot, because this is how the world works. They got a lot of pushback at the beginning. And even in the second year where people like, how racist of you to have a festival all for black people. And they're like, you can come. It's not a festival.
Right.
It's a black owned beer festival. It's the first one. It's just like a black person decided to launch this, or black people decided to launch this, and so it's owned by black people. That's it. And so the vibe is going to be different, culture is going to be different, but other than that, it's still just a beer festival. It's still open, but intentionally focused on black businesses, black brewers, black breweries, and building up that community. Because as we know, again, 1%. It's like a drop in the largest bucket on representation. So it's a festival geared to build that community and build that business and create exposure for that. So in order to participate or table, you have to be connected to a black brewery or business. And that's the only thing that is specific in that way. But yeah, I would say it was probably 60-40. I wasn't necessarily paying that much attention, but I mean, there were still tons of white people there. There were tons of not black people. I mean,
Mhm.
there were all the colors, and that was
Mhm.
what made it so awesome. How many beer festivals, like at
Mhm.
GABF, one of the largest beer festivals available, there's not that much mix of diversity, and that's like
Not even remotely.
a
Right.
huge group of people, and
Right.
there's not much mix. So this
Mhm.
is one that specifically gears to involved in the culture, and like Nappy Roots played at this beer festival, and Nappy Roots brews beer, which I did not know, which I love, love,
I
love.
didn't know that.
Yes, they are super
Now I
into
need to
that.
get some.
So they had beer and they were performing. They were the headliner of this festival, so it's and there was a DJ inside, and there was DJs outside, and there was just like all kinds of things that engage in a way that encourage people to reach out. Like there's a way that encourages the black community or people of color community to engage in it, that want to be there, as opposed to it's just a beer festival, come drink whatever. It was so much more than that. And I know like this has gone to like talking about Fresh Fest a little bit, but um, it's it's essentially just a festival that somebody decided I want this space to be able to reflect who I am, reflect my culture. And that if anybody who would argue with that is ridiculous and insane, because any other beer festival is reflecting what that person wanted and what that person's culture is, or what they wanted their beer festival to look like. Fresh Fest is simply that same thing from a different person's perspective. And it was beautiful, and community, and everybody, regardless if you're black, white, Asian, Latino, said the same thing, that it was a great familial atmosphere and had a great time.
Mhm. Doug?
Hey, I'm just trying to listen. To be quite
Okay.
honest, it's something like, it goes farther than that for me, because it's like, again, when you take just the realization of being someone who walks through the world and looking as I do, and understanding that my voice is generally the loudest one and the most heard, and just kind of stepping back and listening to people who don't look like me being able to have their voice, it's important. And if you want to be diverse, you got to hear all the voices.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like one had a one fermentary in tap room, which is Ramsey's Spot, opened. God, I think it was October, November now. We had a large panel, and again, Fresh Fest connections. Tony Two Pint, whom I love, is like a sister to me now, and
Mhm.
Wax, and a bunch of local people. We had Denord represented, we had Ladonia represented, we had Beer Wax, we had Tony, we had people from One Fermentary, we had Rose from Witch Hunt, we had like Ramsey on this panel, and it was led by Brant Williams, who is with NPR, who is a man of color, and then it was just an experience where you got to be in a space that is geared to be accepting of all people, and not just like people of color or anything else. It's also a place that serves non-alcoholic beverages. It's a place that serves cocktails. It's a place that serves wine. It's a place that serves
Mhm.
beer. So the focus of that place is to involve and make sure that everybody has a reason or a want to be there, as opposed to like going in the brewery and only having beer to choose from. They have all sorts of things. But
Mhm.
also look on a panel, because how many times I can count all of two, maybe three, where you look at a panel to discuss any issue, let alone the diversity in beer. And most of it was color. And like, I think there was only one Caucasian person on the entire panel. And so it's coming from a perspective of experience, as opposed to let's conceptualize this.
Mhm.
And that was huge. And then they had a DJ night and a trivia night, and there were so many different people in that room, and it was so live, and people talked about how much fun they had in it. The point is, you have to be intentional about making your space accepting, making it a comfortable place for everybody to be, and that's for everybody. But you have to
Mhm.
be intentional about focusing on bringing everybody in, because just doing the norm isn't saying to the person who doesn't speak English very well, hey, you're welcome here, which is why Ladonia does so well for the Latin community.
Mm,
This
mm,
to be intentional about spaces that are going to accept Black people in, because, you know, depending on where you are, in most places, like, it's everybody knows that the brewing industry is looked at as being a bearded white guy thing. And for the bearded white guy to stand up and say, hey, people of color, come in here, that is so weird. That's so weird. It's not okay. It's so uncomfortable.
mhm.
Feels so manufactured and fake. And it's not something that's welcoming. And it's actually something that steers people away more than anything else. And it's so you have to be so intentional and do it in the right way in order to make a space that feels open and welcoming for everyone.
Mhm.
And I feel like so
Mhm.
many people are open to doing that, but not a lot of people execute that. So Fresh Fest to one to all these other Ladonia and Denord and all these other things, making that an intentional decision takes work. It takes research. It takes exercise. It takes like real dedication and thought, as opposed to, you know, they'll come and we'll be fine. It's just not how life works. So
Mhm.
I appreciate any business, any supporter, any person who is willing to put in the work, who is willing to do the like mental and process on themselves of like how am I as a person excluding people? So it's just work
Doug,
we all.
Doug, I got one last question. Do you have anything else?
No, just I want to say, Elle, thank you so much for being on. And like I said, it's Greg and I had kind of got to a point when we were starting the show, and we started talking about we want to make it more diverse. So having women, people of color, more folks who, like I said, aren't the bearded white guys, having more voices and just kind of showcasing those. So it's been great having you on. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I would come back anytime.
Awesome.
I'm sure we'll make that happen.
Yeah, well, yeah. It always leads me to saying I want to have you back at the end of this pandemic, whenever that is, when we start to get back to, normal times and being able to go to a bar and sit there and have a flight and all that. I can't wait. But my
Yeah.
last question for you is, and it's something I definitely have to get to, is as a tap room manager of a major brewery in a big city, can you give us some tips on how we can help our local breweries during this time?
One, I'm not a taproom manager. Our taproom manager, Nikki, would be so upset if I tried to claim that role.
Sorry.
Nikki.
Well, I'll tell everybody what you actually do, since I didn't.
It's okay. I mean, this is something that I personally struggle with, because I've been furloughed since St. Patty's, so I'm not working. A number of my distributor reps have not been working for the last couple of weeks. So when people are like, "Go support local," I'm like, "But I don't have a paycheck." So uh, it's been something that I personally have thought about and really tried to do. So for those who are still working and getting a paycheck, I suggest obviously going to your local breweries, your local restaurants, anything that you can do safely, getting curbside, getting to go, and doing that. For the people who, again, are making a paycheck, consider maybe paying it forward. And I know Falling Knife and One have done a program where you can buy a crowler or a growler, or just put down some money for somebody else who would come in and want to be able to buy beer but can't at the moment.
Hmm.
I would, for those people who are making money, to be able to do that, that's
Mm-hmm.
huge. And I know Falling Knife has done a crowlership. I think it's a sponsorship.
Hmm.
You can, go in, just put some money down, and they will put together some stuff for people to just come in and walk in and get some beer without having to pay for it, which is awesome, because a lot of the industry right now isn't able to work, and it's complicated, especially with the new loan that came out. Like, some people are going back to work, some people aren't. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, because my entire role is on premise, which is bars and restaurants, and so I have nothing to do. It's driving me crazy. But for the people who aren't able to, I would say just, continue to help support, spread the word about this or that organization or brewery and, their new releases. There are a number of breweries that are still putting out new things. There are a number of breweries that can't also consider the tier system also. There are breweries that are too big to be able to sell crawlers and growlers in their tap rooms, such as Fulton or Surly or any of those places. So the only way to support them is going to the liquor store. There are places that are only able to sell crawlers and growlers because they don't distribute. So the only way to support them is going to the tap room. There are some that can do both, that are both in the liquor store and at the tap room. So you have to, I know, it's a lot. So you have to go either to the liquor store or to them to get it. And so it's a lot. It's a lot of complication with the whole system. But if you want to support the big guys that aren't, macro breweries, obviously don't go straight to a macro brewery. They have plenty of money. They're fine. If you want to support the bigger local people, you have to go to the liquor store, go buy a 12-pack, go buy, also recently passed right now, so you can go to your restaurant and get to-go beer, buy that can or whatever that the restaurant has, as long as it's something you want to drink, buy that there too. For the little guys, go to the tap rooms and like Dangerous Man, not that they're little, they're killing it right now. Their whole premise has always been, if you want our beer, you have to come here. So that is killing for them, and I'm very happy for that. If it's somebody in between that is both distributing and doing tap room, I would say go to the tap room, but also support your liquor stores. I don't know, it's complicated. Just buy local beer. It is, but like try to circle it around so everybody gets a little bit of a love, because everybody is going through different struggles for sure. And the brewing industry right now is going to look so different at the end of this, because instead of the bubble bursting the way that it naturally should have, which is based on like good quality product and good business, it is now almost solely based on business structure. If you were in debt at the beginning of this and aren't able to make your, this is high season, summer and spring. If you aren't able to make that by fall, I'm not sure they'll still be here. And that's all based on like investors, debt load, and everything else that not a whole lot of people have insight to. So I'm a little nervous, not for Fulton, but I'm nervous for the industry. I'm nervous of what it's going to look like, because it's not based off of any more like, oh, I don't really like their beer, they're not really selling well. It's totally based on something else that not everybody's a part of, and whether or not they can get a loan, or whether or not they have the ability to bring their staff back right now, or any number of things. So just support is really like just do your best with whatever you can and whatever you have, and reach out to breweries and ask them, like, how can I help you? What is the best way to support you right now? Like, if you have a favorite brewery that you haven't seen on Instagram saying this or that, say, how can I help you right now? And I'm sure that they will gladly tell you.
Excellent. Doug, I'm giving you one last shot. It looked like you wanted to jump in. No more?
I'm good. I'm just like,
Okay.
Again, her idea that it's complicated, it is, but just like I said, do what you can and act.
So Daniel says, thanks for coming on now.
Thanks, Daniel.
And I'm gonna give you I actually one last thing. I said I was on my last question, but I fibbed. You want to tell everybody about this? The Facebook group?
Okay, so Brewing Change Collaborative, BCC, is on all of the socials. We have a website, which essentially is just kind of like a ghost, but it links up to our Instagram. And eventually will function. I swear it will. We have two Facebook groups. One is Brewing Change Collaborative members, and one is Brewing Change Collaborative supporters. People of color are welcome to be members regardless of your involvement or access to the industry. We've had a number of people that haven't been able to make it to a single meeting, but are what we call social members, and they just kind of like watch and know what we're up to, and hopefully someday we'll be able to link up. That is where we can, link things, job opportunities, conversations. There have been lots of things controversially to talk about over the last year. So that is kind of like where we hold that conversation. And also where I post any upcoming meetings or events, which there's a lot on there that I'm hoping we can still have. And then the supporters page is for anybody else who wants to be connected to the organization, wants to support us, wants to list opportunities that are coming up in the industry, wants to just, link an article or something else that they saw that's really exciting, whatever. That's for that page. And then Instagram is for everybody. I post all sorts of things on our Instagram, and also support the rest of the industry through that, bringing awareness to, being the only is not a solely craft beer industry sort of thing. So it is something that touches every industry, from science to all beverage to real estate to everything. So we do a lot of awareness kind of posts and also highlighting. And then Twitter, I hate Twitter, but it's there. It's really
Okay.
It's there. I connect things. You'll find some of our stuff on there. It's just kind of a place where a lot of people feel like they can voice things that they should really just leave inside their heads and then reframe. So I don't spend a lot of time on Twitter, but Instagram and Facebook are definitely the best ways to reach out. Most anything that you post or send to there will go to me. So if you have questions or insight or anything that you want to reach out about, or want to have a conversation, that's where it is.
Well, thanks, Al, for your knowledge, and thanks for your vision, and thanks for your work, and thanks for being my friend after I don't respond to you, and all that.
You did. Now I know that if I want to reach you, I have to reach you out on Facebook.
Facebook or Twitter, actually, but you don't like Twitter, so don't go there.
I have there. I'm still paying attention. I just don't like it.
I'm with you. I'm kind of with you, but I don't know. I kind of hide at Twitter. So, but anyway, Al, thank you. Thanks again. Again, thanks for being my friend. Thanks for your work. Thanks for your drive. Thanks for everything you do for everybody in the community. Because again, even if your organization is just in Minneapolis, obviously you should be able to feel that you are reaching other people. You're not just reaching people, in Minneapolis. You're actually reaching people in Wisconsin and everywhere else. So keep doing it, and hopefully we'll see you soon, like in person.
I would love that. Thank you for having me. It was great to talk to both of you. I hope I didn't ramble too much. And
you stopped us from rambling, so it's great. We need to talk less here. So
yeah.
We look at some more people talk around here. We absolutely do. So Al, again, thank you.
Thanks, Al.
Thank you both. Have a great day.
Yep. Cheers.
Thanks.
I love that one. That was fun. Oh man. So actually man, we've had a bunch of days here. We've had a bunch of crazy days, but next week we have Vernon Gibbs, Brothers in Booze. He's a dad too, guy. So we'll jump into that. And then my next meet the friend is Chris Sands. He's going to talk to us about Maryland beer, and he has an Uncapped podcast. And it's funny because we have another friend, Eric Jackson, who has an Uncapped too. So we'll talk to him about all that. I don't think, Doug, you'll be with me on this one. But we do have one.
Probably not.
Right. We do have another one next week, but I'm not ready to. I don't have a banner for that, so we won't talk about it. But Doug, I want to thank you for joining us. For joining me today on a Saturday. It was fun. Actually, it's now noon, so I can go get some lunch.
Oh, it's past noon. It's 1:15.
No, it's noon here. We don't do listen, everything starts at Central Time here. We don't listen, maybe we'll get into that next week. Everything is not Eastern Time.
The reason they always put the time as Eastern Time is because that's the time zone.
See, Doug doesn't know that I can just drop him from the thing if I need to.
We'll talk.
All right. Again, when I'm done with Doug, he's gone. All right, Doug. It's good fun.
Been great.
See you soon.
See ya.
Cheers. Thanks for everybody. I'm enjoying. Oh, actually, before I hit this, I need to show a comment. So Joel wanted to know, are we converting these into a podcast? Because he loves to subscribe and watch them all later, or at least people on the side of the stream. Joel, I'm actually working on that. That was a great idea. You put it when I first posted, you put it there. But in case you guys want to know, you can hit my YouTube channel for all these, and you can play them all in a session. So I'm going to jump on YouTube now, post the one that we just had with Elle, and you'll be able to see that one and then to see them all if you wanted to. So cheers. I had to address that. And I'm out of here.
Later.